Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Alejandro Perez, the CGI Nerd. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to use particles to create a rain simulation. So we have this rain sequence that we're going to be creating. And we have the particles that are coming down and streaking across, but also we can see there when the rain hits the character or the ground, you can see that there's these little raindrops that are kind of splashing off to the side, and we'll be able to create that. For this scene, I have the minifigure here. If you want to check out that tutorial, go to CGINerd.com, and I have a free tutorial series on how to model this minifigure, so that way you guys can follow along exactly with this. But if you don't want to use the minifigure and you can use any other geometry, that is fine. Other than that, let's get started with the tutorial now. Okay, to start off with, let's take a look at the scene that we have here. So I have a minifigure that I am going to set collisions onto. Then I have the ground, and the ground is basically like a box that I adjusted to be 20 by 20 and set it to the ground. So I have that going on there. Then the back wall is the same thing. And then I used the transforms here at the object level to put it towards the back. I have a rain emitter geo, which is just a grid. So if I go in here, we can see that we have a grid that is 20 by 20. That is going to be emitting from the top, and at the object level, I moved it 12 units up, and that is so that the camera doesn't see it in the scene, and it's coming from the top down for the rain. All right, so let's start making some rain. So I'm going to select on the rain emitter geometry. And this is going to be the geometry that we are going to be emitting particles from. Looking at this, I could probably just do, let's see, 180. Nope. 180. No, I don't need to do that. Don't worry about that. Sorry about that, but we're going to go here and then go to the particles tab, and we're going to use the source particle emitter. And basically what that does, it selects a source, in this case this geometry that is selected, and creates particles from them. So once I've clicked on that, you can see that it moves us over into the dynamics for our AutoDop network. I am going to push play, and you can see that it is coming down with particles now. Let's go out back to the object level. So that's the AutoDop network level that we've created. And then also this source particle geometry node was created. So if you go in here, just has an import. So it's bringing in the particles from there. So that way we can work with them in a stop level. And then here in the AutoDop network, let's push L, and we have the emitter, the pop objects, which are the particles. We have the pop solver, which is what is creating the dynamics simulation for that. Then merging it, which you'll see once we have rigid body solvers, they'll be merged into here. Gravity, and then the final output that is bringing everything into the stop level. So if we push play right now, like I said, it's coming down. It's not interacting with anything. So we need to get that to start happening. What I want to do is select the ground here. And I am going to set that, if we go to collisions, as a static object. And then let's go to the back wall. Set that as a static object. And then for the minifigure, if I go here and double click it, because it's a subnet, we have a whole bunch of geometry nodes in here. And basically we can go through and make all of these static objects. I haven't merged everything into one node, so I have to do all of these individually. And once I do that, I'll have collisions on all of these objects as well. Okay, so now if I go to the beginning and play everything, we can start seeing that it is colliding with everything. But it looks a little bit weird, so we're gonna adjust some settings and do some things inside of the Autodot network to make it look better. I'm gonna push L to lay out everything here inside of the Autodot network. And what I want to start off with is assigning some pop deformer or pop attributes here. So basically anything inside of the dot network, if I do POP, are particle operators. So we can use any of these to affect the particles. I am going to do pop collision behavior and bring that in there. We can see we got that. Right now it's just going to turn it to red whenever it hits something, but we also need to go into collision behavior for the pop solver and add collision attribute. So if I push play, you can see once it hits something and even hitting other particles, it turns red. Okay. So we know what's colliding right now. Let's go to the pop behavior right here, and response right now it's set to none, but what we can do is tell it to die. And let's push play. And now what you'll see is once it hits something, the whole thing just dies pretty much. It doesn't exist. There's no red because it kills everything immediately once it collides with everything. But that is good because we can spawn a another set of particles being created based off of this if we create a group name here. So let's call this hit, so when it hits something. Okay, and then we got a lot of particles that are kind of just disappearing into nothingness here. Let's do a pop kill. And I'll put it here, and I want to go and enable the bounding box. For the size, I'm just going to put this, actually I'm going to keep the size there. Let's put this at 1, or not 1, sorry, -1. And let's see, are we seeing it here? Yep. Let's put it at -2. And then for the X, I'm going to make it 30. And for the Z, I'm going to make it 30. So hopefully that will catch everything. Let's try this now. So we can see anything that's going in there is going to kill off the particles, which is great. So that way we don't have a whole bunch of particles that are not ending up being used. And if we go to the camera, we're never going to see those. So that is fine. Okay, so now how do we get this to look like it splashes when it hits the ground? Because before it was bouncing like crazy, and really if it splashes, you're going to have lots of smaller particles that are going to be emitted from there. So what we can do is a pop stream, which basically allows us to create another set of particles for this system. And then I'm going to go connect that to the merge. Then I can turn on the source group, and if we go over here, we can see we have the hit. We shouldn't see anything different right now. Everything is working the same. We don't see any red, but what we can do is replicate. And I can turn to impulse activation. Impulse activation versus constant activation is basically, if we're doing the constant activation, it is the number of particles that are constantly being generated every frame, or not every frame, but every second. And then this is the impulse going to be every frame. So I'm just going to do it off of every second, and let's do it at 100 rather than 500, so that way there's less life expectancy. We can make this die much quicker, so let's put it at 0.2 and then the variance of 0.1. So let's go through and play, and what you'll see is that you're getting a little bit of that splash, but it is a little bit more controlled, and we're actually getting more particles coming up that later on we can adjust the size for, so that way it looks a little bit more accurate for what we want. All of this we can maybe add a pop wind. And the pop wind is going to give us some air resistance and make it work a little bit more natural. We can add some noise to the way they're moving, make everything feel a little bit more natural. It's taking a little bit more time to calculate, but after it goes through, we should see it going faster here. And if we needed to, we can bring the air resistance up or down for the look that we are going for in particular. And you can add wind and things to that as well. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. Now in this here, we have basically the range system created. And actually, let me check something really quick. Yeah, if we look closely, it has particles that are hitting off of the surface of this minifigure, I believe. So that's what these are. Okay. And let's go out to the object level, and then I'm going to jump into the geometry level for the particles, the source particles. And I'm going to create a blast node. And what I want to do is say delete non-selected. And I'm going to have the hit particles. Actually, that is not what I want. Let's give the particles a name. Let's go back to the DOP network. here. And now when these are created, just born, let's call this splash. Now we can go to the source particles here, and then let's make this. All right, I could type it out, but we should be able to see it here and select it. So now what's going to happen is that we should see only the splash parts. Then we can go over here and I'm going to create a blast node, and on this one I can do the splash. Oops, no. Let's see. So we're still getting the red ones there. So let's remove splash. And what we want is the stream replicate, I believe. It's not that one. Not replicate one, but let's see, is it this one? Yep. So it's going to be the stream rain emitter geosource. So now we get one that is just the rain particles. Then we have one that is just for the splash. Oop. Let's look at this here. We have the splash. There we go. It's just that I had it selected, so it didn't look like it was separate, but it is. And then here, we only get that. Perfect. Okay, now let's do a point, or sorry, copy to points. And then we have the geometry to copy, which we haven't created, and then the target points to copy to. And then I'm going to create a sphere. And on this, I'm going to make it a polygon. And the radius, let's make it 0.01, 0.01, 0.01. Okay. So let's go through and play this. It's maybe a little bit too small. 0.1, oops. 0.1, 0.1. This one's green because I had 2 points for a moment. If I want to fix that, you can do right click, delete selected, or delete channel, sorry. Okay, so let's make this smaller. I don't like how big it is. I'm going to put it at 0.03. I like that for the scale of this scene. So that's all the little splash ones. I am going to copy this over and connect this here. And on this one, I'm going to adjust the radius so that these drops are a little bit bigger. Okay. And you can see the geometry, how it looks here. Then what I want to do is merge both of these sets of particles together. So now you can see the little smaller splashes are happening there. So that is great. Okay, now that is basically it. So what will end up happening is that these are moving pretty fast here. And I think maybe I want it to move a little bit faster than this. I did add the pop wind here, and I feel like maybe it slowed it down a little bit more than I really wanted. I could also just decrease the value, but I can test it a little bit better once I do a play blast for the scene, or a flip book from hearing Houdini. But what I'm going to make sure I do is that in my render settings I have deform motion blur. So right now I am set up to render in Mantra, but you can do it, I mean not in Mantra, in Octane, but you can do it in Mantra or other nodes. Actually, I have a Mantra node here. So let's see. Sampling. That looks good there. It's been a while since I've used Mantra. Okay, allow motion blur. So I need to make sure that I allow motion blur in Mantra, and then it has the sampling, and then that would be good. And then I probably turn on the depth of field just for composition's sake. In Octane, I have these motion blur settings, and I just need to make sure that I enable deformations motion blur, and then it's going to end up looking streaky. So I have this here. Let's calculate this out for quite a few frames. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the shop network. And this is because this is where I create the shaders for my Octane. If you want an easy workflow for using Mantra, you can always use the material palette and create a shader here. I'd probably use something like the glass shader because it's transparent and reflective like water would be. And then here in Mantra, what I'm going to do is create a Octane network. This is going to be my rain. And then let's make a Octane network. This is going to be my floor. And then I'll copy this in a moment. So let's do a universal material and connect that in there. And then let's copy and paste this, and this is going to be the back wall. And then for the rain, I need a specular material. And then I'm going to bring down the opacity. So that way it's more transparent. Then I have to go to the object level, and I have the source particles, render material. I'm going to set it to the rain shader that I set up for it. Then the ground is going to be the ground material. I called it floor. Okay, and then the back wall is going to be back wall. And also the source emitter, I'm going to turn the visibility off on that so that it doesn't render it. And then I can go, let's look at it from the camera view, and I have this here. Oh, I need that on, sorry. The particles I do need on, it's the actual geometry. So if I go over here and zoom out, you can see the geometry is gone now. So that's what I wanted to hide. Okay, let's go back to the camera view. You can go through and calculate everything. Okay, let's stop it right here and set up an IPR. And we can see with the motion blur on that what it's kind of looking like at this particular size. So if I wanted to, I can go here, and I think this size is actually these in the foreground might go by really quick, but I can always go into the shapes here and let's make this 0.1 or 0.01, 0.01 and 0.01. 0.01. There we go. Oh, that's for the splash, the red ones. Let's look at what this one is. Let's make it 0.03, 0.03, and 0.03. Okay, so now when I look at the IPR, it should look a little bit more streaky. And I brought it over into the other window accidentally. So that is looking pretty cool. And what I'd like to do is in the Autodot network, I have, let's see, here in the, oops, here, source. There we go. So we're creating 5,000. Let's make this a lot more. So that we're going to have a ton more particles. It's going to be a little bit slower, but I feel like it will look a lot better in the scene. So we can see how many more particles we have in the scene. And I want to get it to calculate to the point where we have it covering up our figure and hitting on the ground. And then that way we can see what it looks like. So let me pause the video while it calculates, and then we'll take a look at a IPR render of this frame. So let me pause. Okay, so here we can see what that looks like here. And I like that quite a bit. Maybe the little bit of particles in the ground, I can make them a little bit bigger, but this is looking pretty good so far. So let's stop this. But at this point, it's really just playing around with the settings and getting a look that you like. So I'm just going to go back over here. And on this one, actually not that one, I like the size of that one. This one, maybe instead of 0.01, I'm going to put it 0.02. And then I'll just make some tweaks, probably add some textures to the floor and the back, and then I will come right back to show you guys the final output for this little rain scene here. Okay, so this is the sequence. I just rendered out about 2 seconds and then looped it from the point where it is already kind of hitting the ground. So I just repeated it over and over again, and you can see how the rain looks right now. And if we look closely, you can see that we get those little bits of rain that are splashing off of him. You can see off the ground too. It's a little bit harder to see here with the colors, but there are these streaks that are going off to the side, be in frames. So let's see if I can find some more. Here's a good one where we can see some more streaks from the rain. So these little ones maybe are a little bit too small. It could do with being a bit bigger, but I'm happy with the overall look. I can always tweak it a little bit more and get it looking better, but this is the simple rain effect that you can get done inside of Houdini using particles. So I hope you found this tutorial useful, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!